Hello and welcome to Business as Usual. Today my guest is my friend John from J&R Auto. John, welcome to the show.
Hey Kevin, how are you today?
Just living the dream every day, brother. Hey, first day of fall. Perfect time to have you on the show. Let's jump ahead and start talking a little bit about winter maintenance. What are some of the things people should consider before they have that first 10-degree day?
For the first 10-degree day, obviously the first thing everybody thinks of in the wintertime is a battery. It's easy to do a battery check. Cars nowadays, specifically Japanese cars, they'll start the car with a completely junk battery. The starters are so efficient you won't even know until it's a problem. So we do have a really good tester. It'll go in and it'll detect a bad battery before there is a problem. So battery's obvious. Wipers, never a bad idea. You got to see, right?
Yeah, that helps.
So that is all part.
Yeah.
Everybody breaks it up into seasons, but for the most part, we check every car pretty thoroughly. We want to make sure that everything is good with the car before it goes out the door. You drive down the road after we do a brake job and you can't see out your windshield because your wipers are doing one of those.
Yeah.
That's not good. But for wintertime, batteries are important, wipers. A lot of people focus in on antifreeze and coolant. Believe it or not, if you pay attention to the regular maintenance schedule in the car, they do usually have you change it out fairly quick, every 30,000 miles or so.
But that's one of the challenges, John. Many of us don't pay attention to that. Because, I was thinking about the show today, and just, something like, front end alignment, tire rotations. If you said to me, for $1 million, when was the last time you did that?
No idea.
I'm not getting the money and stuff, so.
Makes you feel any better? If you had to ask me that question, I don't think I could answer it either. I work at a shop, and I'm usually over on my oil changes, so. Yeah, it is a tough one. I think a perfect example is your car. It's a little bit newer. It's under warranty right now.
Yep.
The minute you come out of warranty, or even during the warranty period, I shouldn't say that, bring it in. We have all the maintenance schedules that all the dealers have, and I do like to kind of follow the maintenance schedule for dealers. BMW doesn't have a ton of regular maintenance items, but there's certain manufacturers, they go after certain things, like Chrysler wants brake fluid changed all the time. I mean, when would you ever think of that?
Sure, never.
A lot of them want to, change coolant. A lot of them want to change transmission fluid. But more importantly, all of these services relate to your warranty. A lot of cars have 80, 100,000 mile warranties on the powertrain, and you go in, you have a transmission issue at 100,000 miles. They're going to ask you, when did you change your transmission fluid? The maintenance schedule says, hey, we wanted to change it 30, 60, and 90. Did you do that?
Yep.
No, you didn't. Warranty's void. So it is very good to follow your maintenance schedule. It's in most of the owner's manuals.
Sure.
You can call a local dealer, get it, or you can give me a call, and I can definitely give it to you.
It brings us to a different question, because I think it's a myth, but that's why I'm asking the question. A lot of people feel that if they bring their car to a mechanic like yourself rather than to the dealership, that it could have an impact on the warranty. Is that true?
Absolutely not. You've been into my shop and sitting right on my front counter. I believe it's the Magnuson-Morrison Act. I'm not good with names, but there's actually there's federal law in place that pretty much says a dealer cannot deny any type of warranty repairs as long as you followed that maintenance schedule, like you said, oil changes. In fact, it goes so far as to say, if you can produce receipts, you can do all the work yourself. And I know you'd love to do that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely and stuff. No, but we've had this conversation many times. My daddy, God rest his soul, was always yelled at my brothers and myself to get a mechanic. Because often, people are guilty of chasing specials. Well, I can get an oil change here for this price and fill in the rest of it. But that can be an issue when it comes to things like having records. Because, okay, who had the brake special 3 years ago when I got the brakes done? So my daddy's still correct, and it's good to establish a relationship with a mechanic who knows your car, knows you. And because sometimes just some cars can be funky, right? It's like, well, your car always kind of pulled to the right or whatever. But having a mechanic that knows that, it's going to make it a little easier for you, correct?
I can't agree with you more. And with our regular customers, it's, like we worked on a car today. We've been working on this guy's car for years. And, we know what's been an issue, what hasn't been an issue. We know what to look for. The other end of it, too, is customer came into me the other day. She's just starting to come, but I think she's kind of a bouncer. She's only had a couple tires floating around. She's getting an engine. She asked me, well, she overheated her engine, so obviously she needs. Pardon me?
I said, ooh.
Yeah, ooh. I thought you said who. I'm like, eh.
No. We're not going to call out anyone on the show.
So the car comes into me, it's dead as a doornail, needs an engine. I got to put an engine in it.
Yeah.
She's asking me questions. Well, what do you think about the rest of the car?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can I can visually check it.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of shape the car is in. I don't know what kind of, but I also, like I was telling you the story earlier of, we're working on another car. I know this customer. It's got an engine problem. The car has been absolutely meticulously maintained, so I know his service records from day one. I can give him, really good, acute advice and do A, B, and C and go from there.
One of the things that we've spoken about in the past is oil changes. Is this whole 3,000 miles, from the 50s, is that still true? Or now cars are so more efficient? Can you go a little longer? Should you go a little longer?
That's such a can of worms. It's a tough one. Going back to shopping for price, there's a big box store out there, like one of those like dollar stores.
Sure.
Something like. They have a suit going on right now. They're selling oil, and everybody's putting this oil in their car, and it wasn't really rated for the car, and it's blowing up engines. So yeah, oils. As far as intervals go, I like to say you're always safe with 3,000 for regular, 5,000 for synthetic.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers are pushing it out.
Right.
My theory is they're trying to, when they give you total cost of ownership over a 10-year period, if you only had to do 5 oil changes, it's going to be cheaper.
Sure.
It's not a huge expense. Going back to the guy with the, I was telling you with the engine failure, you can tell immediately when you pull apart an engine who's been naughty and who's been nice. This guy changes oil religiously. There's other cars you get in there, you can stand a screwdriver up in the sludge that's in the engine. So it's a cheap enough service, just change it.
I guess that was going to be my comment too. I know synthetic oil change is a little more expensive, but for the $100 or whatever versus getting a new engine, it really
But
how can you argue that?
Once again though, you got to kind of go with what the manufacturer says, because certain cars, like there's so many different weights of oil right now. There's 0.20, there's 530, there's 5 straight 30 weight. Your car, for example, synthetic all the way. That's all it has to have synthetic. Any turbo car has to have synthetic. So there's certain cars that absolutely have to. Certain cars you can get around it.
I didn't read the article, but I saw something on the internet yesterday about premium gas, and that people are wasting, it was like billions of dollars on premium gas. You shouldn't use premium gas?
Once again, has to do with the car. I'd have to look, but does your car call for premium?
What's that? Yeah,
it does.
I put premium in my car forever. So
it has to do. Premium fuel has to do with where the fuel flashes at a certain temperature.
Yep.
Certain cars use higher combustion ratios. That will actually cause the fuel to flash higher. So it has to do with the car. It has to do with the engine and how it was manufactured.
Yep.
You have to look in your owner's manual. The majority, I would say 80 cars, just use regular octane fuel, but there are a lot of cars, specifically European cars, that definitely call for higher octane fuels like super unleaded.
Yep. I haven't heard of anyone saying they're going to tune up on their car in a long time. Still do tune-ups?
We can still do tune-ups. Once again, goes back into the maintenance schedule. Most cars nowadays, they use iridium tip spark plugs. Iridium, it comes from outer space, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is. They're usually 100,000 mile, mileage intervals. They don't actually wear out anymore, but they get little like plasma splatters on them. But beyond that, fuel filters have been eliminated for most cars.
Yeah.
I'd say 80% of the cars out there, so you don't change those. Always changing an air filter. PCV systems are integrated into the cars. You don't change those anymore. Cap and rotors are gone. Ignition wires are for the most part gone. So yeah, there's not spark plugs and air filter on most cars.
Wow.
But once again, ties into the maintenance schedule.
Now, one of the challenges this time of year for a lot of us is you come out in the morning, got cold overnight, and all the tire indicator lights are on in your car. Is that something people should pay attention to? I guess what happened to me, I'll use myself as an example, came on all 4 tires. I look at, none of them are low, so I drive around for a week, waiting for it to get warm, hope it's gonna go out again. But you really shouldn't ignore things like that. You should, go make sure the tire pressure is proper, because that really has an impact on performance if you're driving around with maybe 1 low tire.
Performance, absolutely. In fact, I think 2010 and up, every car out there has to have tire maintenance. Tire sensors on them.
Yep.
The federal government figured out that they were, cars were consuming X amount of dollars in fuel due to underinflated tires. Not to mention, when you're running a tire low on air, definitely, stability and performance definitely beats up on the tire. And if a tire gets low enough, the actual sidewall, tire crushes and it'll tear into the sidewall.
Ooh.
Yeah, make the tire unsafe.
That would be bad and stuff.
But yeah, it's nothing. You stop by the shop all the time. Your wife stops by. It's 5 seconds. In fact, Adam got a brand new digital air pressure gauge. We can set them to 0.7 of a PSI. So
But that's just it. Most people don't know what PSI should be set to, though.
Why should you?
Yeah, when you, like I said, when you can just stop by,
I don't know what an electrician does. That's why I call one.
But it is kind of neat. But speaking on tires, that's another one of those everyone has a favorite type of thing.
Sure.
But now there's certain tires that are designed, if you have a performance car, you should be using this type of tire versus you got just an everyday type of car. Does that have an impact on tires?
Absolutely, positively. It kind of breaks down into speed ratings, tread compounds, and tread design. Like your car, once again, for an example, probably takes a higher speed rating tire, and it doesn't mean they're usually speed rated. Like there's, I think T's, S's, V's, H's are, it kind of goes up from there. They start around 85 miles an hour, then the next rating's 100 miles an hour. It has nothing to do with going that fast. It has to do with how stiff the sidewall is when you lean into a corner. It's how much it's going to flex and move. So that's one of the things. Speed ratings, tread design. Like a BMW, like race car, they're going to use like a good dry traction tire and then run snow tires in the winter. But the family sedan, you can run like a regular T or an S-rated tire, just a good all season. Like the tires on your wife's car, that's a good example. Just basic Uniroyal, nothing crazy, and just around town. So you can tailor the tire to the car, and you can also get like a general purpose tire.
I mean, besides the difference in mileage, like I think isn't like 30,000 mile tires and 50,000 mile tires. There's some that last longer.
It is funny you say that because everybody kind of keys in on how long the tire is going to last.
Yeah.
In my opinion, those mileage tread life warranties, they're kind of a load. Most manufacturers, I'm not going to say it specifically, but they fail way before that.
Yep.
It's just something to give people. My biggest thing I noticed with inexpensive tires and expensive tires, the more expensive tires are more round.
Yep.
As crazy as that sounds, when you spin the tire,
Yeah.
You spin anything at a high speed, you can see it. Some of the cheap ones we put them on, it's like they're doing this and they're doing this, and there's no way in God's green earth. I specifically run Michelins on my vehicles because I'm sensitive to vibration. I don't like that, that whole shaky thing.
Yeah.
So I run Michelins on all my cars. It's a premium tire. You definitely get good mileage out of them, but the biggest thing is they're quiet and they're smooth.
I'm like I said, I'm a big believer there's some things you should spend money on.
Absolutely.
And tires would be in that category.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to try to save, $20 a tire, and when I need them, something goes wrong, and I'm like, oh great, glad I saved $80.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Buddy of mine down the street says it best. Either buy a cheap one or get a super good one.
Yep.
If you're getting rid of the car in a couple months, yeah, we can throw some cheap tires on just to kind of get you through. But either go with a cheap one or go with a good one. And there's a couple in between. Once again, the tires I put on your wife's car, I just sold to somebody else the other day. It's a good in-between tire, and so.
How about snow tires? Still using them?
It depends upon the car. All-wheel drive, for the most part, you don't typically need them. Front-wheel drive,
Like my old Caddy?
like your old Caddy.
Could have used snow tires.
Could have used snow tires.
So I could have used it in the winter instead
And that's
of leaving the driveway.
great. So let me ask you a question. You putting two on a front-wheel drive car? You putting 2 snow tires or 4 snow tires?
I would. It seems like a trick question. You would need 4.
No.
But logically, you'd put 2 in the front.
Exactly,
It's front
logically.
left, right?
And you know what? If I didn't know about it, there's videos online that actually show it. So you get a tire. Picture you're sitting at the dinner table and you're bored. You got the spoon. You're holding it there and you're kind of spinning it around.
Yep.
It's exactly what a tire. If you have 2 snow tires in a car, you're driving down a hill. You get those 2 tires in the front. You have a ton of weight on them. You're going down. You got no weight in the back. You have no traction in the back. You're firmly planted right there. The car is just going to kind of want to do this. They have videos of it showing that the car will actually, the back end will kick out. So front wheel drive, 100% all day long, 4 snow tires.
Definitely makes sense. It's kind of interesting, John, because obviously you're a mechanic, but not so much anymore because the car's a computer. So the expression in your industry, he's a good wrench. Now the fact that you're handy with your hands, you have a little. It's a lot more complex than that now. You almost need to be good with computers too. Everything's computerized, right?
It's simpler and easier, and thank God for Adam and Tony, because I can do it. All the programming stuff we get into, like most cars, we do a tremendous amount of computers, like just engine management computers. They just fail when they get older, but when you reinstall them, you have to actually download new software into them. A good example is a car that I just always think of. There's a GM product, came in at an electric power steering. Didn't work. I worked on it for about a day and a half. I finally figured it out. Literally, there was one wire that went to the electric power steering module. what it was. It's called a wake-up wire, but it sends 12 volts over to it to tell the module to turn on. It was never being told to turn on, so it had no.
Wow.
But I mean, it was great when I found it, but
Yeah.
that was interesting.
But that would have been not today to come visit.
But yeah, yeah. But I mean, we have thousands tied up in just programming alone, and I bet you we do 4 or 5 computers a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, how about the electric cars? How's that changed the game? And
Well, here's the deal.
have you
with-
been doing any yet?
No, I've been doing Priuses since
Yeah.
day one, but my opinion on the electric cars, the manufacturers that are, people that are coming out with electric cars, they want to make a splash. They want to do it right. They want to have no problems. The Toyota Prius, I don't think I've seen absolutely limited problems on them because they put them together, they engineered them properly, they assembled them properly from the get-go. So they're not very high failure, if that makes any sense.
Right.
And also too with the Priuses, you know what regenerative braking is? So it takes, as you're slowing down, it
Yep.
takes all the energy from the brakes and throws it back into the batteries.
Yep.
Brakes don't wear out. So the brakes don't wear out on the Prius. You put tires.
Yep.
You know, there's actually a cooling system for the computer, which we service. But beyond that, we put tires, occasional wheel bearing. No,
Nice.
very low failure. But most of the newer electric stuff is still under warranty, so I don't see them.
But like you said, with cars lasting longer and longer now, it's very common to come across someone with a car, 15, even older. But they get into that, this place I was with when we had both the older cars, where you start to say, I don't have a car payment, but yet I'm running 2 cars and they're taking turns going to visit the mechanic.
Right.
So sometimes you have to make that decision of, okay, you can hang on to the car if you want, but if you're going to be putting in, thousands of dollars in the repair each year versus making a car payment. So is that something that people obviously have to consider? I find people fall in love with their car. Oh, it's still a beauty. It's only got, like my wife's car, 7, 8 years old with 30,000 miles
I like her
on
car.
it.
That's a nice car.
Yeah, but like I said, as we've seen, you have to watch for like the rust things, and you just not using the car kind of can hurt it too.
It's a tough one. This is where it's good to know a mechanic, or just get the opinion of a mechanic, should I say, or a professional. Because to answer your question, every car is different. Like your wife's car, I would have zero problem running that to 170 to 200,000. The car is telling
We
you.
might not live that long.
I know.
At 30,000,
Yeah, she'll
of
only
all
get
the
30.
years she's at it.
Age is going to be the enemy on that car. And
Yeah.
you saw, Honda Classic.
Yeah.
It was just turning to dust in front of us. So it depends on European cars, different steels, different coatings. They don't rot as much.
Yep.
They seem to last a little bit longer. But that car I was telling you about earlier with the part they produce 2,300 every year, car had 110,000 miles on it, needs a new engine. So they are lasting longer, but certain manufacturers are dropping the ball and just not putting the cars together properly. And they're getting 110, 120,000 miles out of them, which is not cool.
Right. What do you think about driverless cars? Fan?
I
I am. Because I can't drive, so.
am. Quick story. When stability control first came out, you're familiar with stability control? You're driving down the road. I used to have a Scion that one of the parts guys that I deal with. It was
Yeah.
a super cool car. It had stability control, like those little Scion boxy things.
Yeah.
I used to drive it up and down this hill, and I used to purposely kick the stability control as a riot. You'd be going down a hill, and you'd go to the left a little bit, and you'd jerk the wheel, and the back end would kick out. It'd actually apply the brakes. I'm not exactly sure which brakes it'd apply. It'd bring you back in a line, so it's a neat system.
Nice.
This goes into the story about, I worked on one of those long time, probably 10 years ago, a Toyota. You're driving down the road, you turn the wheel, the left front wheel locks up as you're driving. It was a stability control failure,
Yeah.
is my point. So the steering wheel was out of sync, so it was supposed to be at 0. When it turned it, it sees the amount of degrees.
Yeah.
0 was not 0. It was thinking 0 was like 90 degrees.
Ooh.
So when it went a little bit more, it thought the car was spinning out of control, and it would start locking up wheels. So I think it's neat. Technology's come a long way. I'm very interested to see the failures when they happen.
Yep.
So that driver, like that Volvo commercial, the guy steps in front of the car and the car
Sure.
stops. What happens when that goes bad and you're driving down the highway? It may sound cynical, but I think,
No, I mean, everyone you talk to, that's the legitimate concern is that, okay, if it's, all these sensors, well, what if a sensor's bad? It doesn't find that little kid in front of your car until you hit them, unfortunately.
every time you turn the key on in a car, I keep on bringing up your car, but I bet you your car has 40, 50 different modules in it. The second you turn the key on, it does a circuit check of all
Yep.
that stuff. And as it's driving, it's doing dynamic checks of it. So it's definitely gonna, I think it's gonna be a super, super small percentage. But to answer your question, I'm all for it. I think it's super neat. I think the Google car is just super cool.
Yeah, for someone like me who can't drive, it'd be a gold mine, you know what I mean?
I backed an old post the other day with my brand new truck. I have a backup camera too. No, I think I need to be taken off the road. Some of my kids need to be taken off the road.
Yeah, but like I said, it's definitely interesting. All right, just a random question for you. What's your dream car? If you could have one car, any car, what would it be?
If I could have a dream car, any car, old or new,
Your choice, whatever you
I
want.
too.
You can have one of each. How's that?
One of each, 69 Chevelle and one of the newer BMW like 6 Series
Yep.
supercars.
What was your first car then?
First car was a 7. In fact, if you want to break in any of my my passwords anywhere, it was a 78 Delta.
Yeah.
78 Delta 88 with a V8 286. Had one banged up fender. It's a great car.
I guess like when I watch TV, John, and you watch the shows that supposedly like in the 50s, whatever, I just see those cars and I'm like, if I was driving that, I'd feel safer than I do nowadays.
Do you remember how much work those cars were to drive? Remember little Dodge Ass? Remember no power steering? Remember no power brakes?
But it looks like if you hit something now,
Oh, yeah.
you'd still be okay.
You ever seen
You might not even spill your drink.
You ever seen a curtain bag deployment? They're super cool.
Yeah.
It's like you're driving around. You know the side curtains, the ones that go up by your head?
Yeah.
So you get the front airbag, you get the side. They're pretty. Some of the airbag systems are pretty neat, provided they don't come out and kill you like.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean. We've had a lot of people I know who had the airbags go off, and one blew up, cut the guy up pretty good. I mean, there can definitely be some issues.
With all the different systems in the car, ABS, stability control, like you said, some of that stuff. But the airbags have become super advanced, and I feel that's why anybody comes in with an airbag light, can you please get me a sticker? My airbag light's on. No, not at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like you're gonna drive down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see, like I said, ignoring the airbag issues because, all kidding aside, it can save your life.
My personal favorite when I first opened up there, when an airbag deploys, it like blows the
Yep.
thing. He sewed them all back up with like blue thread.
Wow.
It looked awesome.
Yeah.
Like, did you do that yourself? He's like, yep, I did.
Yeah.
Like, that's fantastic. Please leave.
but like I said, that's the hard part is that, we're all trying to save money. We're trying to, get the best deals we can. But, there's times when you have to spend money. I mean, the risks are just too hard. You see people, and they're like, well, my brakes have been acting up. And, they're stomping on it with both feet all the way to the floor to stop the car when it's going 10 miles an hour.
Car I worked on today. I keep going back to this car. It was some of the stuff was under warranty. So a brake pad does this, right? There's a caliper does that. There's a pad here and a pad here, and it squeezes. They're under warranty. Should be 4 brake pads. I wasn't paying attention. I'm looking for it. I'm like, there is no third brake pad. He actually wore through the pad lining. He wore through the pad. It was just gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about people blowing stuff off, needing stuff after a while, it wasn't good.
I want to go back to that on the brakes because, what little I know, and it could be wrong, but you'll correct me like you usually do, is that that's a stupid thing to put off. Because once the brakes start to feel a little funny, if you put it off, then you end up killing the pads, and instead of it being, a little bit of expense, now it turns into a big expense, right?
Not so much. Pads, when you do a brake job, the friction parts are pads and rotors.
Yep.
You always replace the brake pads because that wears out. You always replace the rotors because you want a surface of metal to put the brake pad up against.
Yep.
So typically you're replacing pads and rotors anyway. So to answer your question, not so much. It sounds kind of crazy, but the car actually stops a little bit better when there's no brake pad left and they're
Yep.
grinding because you have more friction.
Right, yeah.
So it's not a good thing. You're
Right.
throwing, debris all over the place, and the piston does come out a little bit further. So, I mean, the car I worked on today, it could have been a lot cheaper if it wasn't ignored. But I mean, initially, I'm talking like a week or two. It's not horrible. Get in when you can. I know everybody's busy, but yeah, long term, like a couple months,
Sure.
you do a lot of damage.
And again, that's where it comes back to the importance of establishing a relationship with a mechanic. Because, where you can go in and say, okay, here's the plan for the car. You can't leave until we fix this. Can you budget in the next couple months for this, type of thing. And that's where it's important to have that relationship.
That's a great word too, is budget. So many people that I don't know, they come in, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to spend because you'll take it all.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, I like the people the most. And it's like I said, we check out every car, we go right through them, and what do you have to work with? What do you want to spend today? And a lot of services like maintenance items, like transmission fluid, coolant, you can wait till the next time. But
Right.
we like to prioritize, if you have $300-400 to spend, you absolutely positively, you need to do this brakes and this front end part's falling out.
Yeah.
That needs to be taken care of. Everything else, if you'd like to, take care of it now, or I tell everybody with maintenance, it's there, it's in my service history. It's the other thing too about, coming to one place. You've been coming to me forever. If you ever get rid of, like when you get rid of Honda Classic,
Yep.
you didn't really need to, but I can just go and click one button. I can print off all the service records that you ever did with that car.
Right.
So that's really nice. And anything I recommend to you is in my system too. So you can call me up. I have people call up all the time. We were in a couple weeks ago. You recommended A, B, and C to us.
Yep.
We want to spend about $200. What can we do?
Sure. Yeah, like I said, that's what, having that relationship is important. Also, if you're planning on going on a trip, that's not one of those, those crazy things. Bring the car in and have it checked out, right?
Yeah,
Before you end up in another state with an issue.
You don't want to be that guy on the side of the road with the hood open and the steam coming out. And
But like I said, you see people do that, you see it online all the time.
fixing your car costs money.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, but like I said, if I'm even, a little bit concerned that I'm going to have an issue when I'm driving, potentially thousands of miles, I don't want to be in a state, that I'm not familiar with anybody and, getting my car towed to the local mechanic. No disrespect to anyone, not questioning
sure.
anyone's integrity, but, okay, now I need to fix it before I can go home.
Well, yeah, and
That's a big difference.
it goes back into that whole thing. A, you're rushed because you need to fix it before you get home. And B, that guy does not know your car, doesn't know you, doesn't know what's been done, doesn't know your driving habits, Trying to think of an example. There was a guy the other day, actually a good friend of mine I went to high school with. He comes in and I rotate his tires every time and sees him, because every time I see him, he drives like an animal. You can literally see it on the edges of the tires. So I know what his driving habits are, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always moving his tires around. But yeah, it's driving on a trip, when you're just driving along and
Yeah.
you have nothing to think about.
Yep.
What I think about is just like, I understand everything that's happening in the car and just thousands and thousands of moving parts. And how does this thing stay together?
Yeah. So you must be fun to go on road trips with.
No, it's what
Sit in the back, John.
it's just what I
Take
think
it out.
about, just like getting the fuel, fuel coming up out of the fuel pump all the way through there, passing through the filter, hitting the injectors going, it's nuts. It's
So
nuts.
that's why I'm glad I don't know anything about cars, but we are out of time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
As
you,
always,
Kevin.
thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a great day.